What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down a wide receiver football IQ quiz. So today I'm going to be asking you a series of questions to test your knowledge of the wide receiver position. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you guys are located in California, we are coming out for 2 football training clinics for quarterbacks and wide receivers this offseason. We're going to be coming out to San Diego, California on February 20th for a single day, 4-hour-long QB and wide receiver training clinic. And then we're going to be coming out to Bakersfield, California for a same thing, quarterback and wide receiver training clinic. So if you guys want some more information on that, you're local to those cities and would like to train with us, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out. Let's get started with this video. So now, what we got here, first example, if you're not familiar with our quiz style videos, I'm going to show you guys a pre-snap look from a wide receiver and a DB. I'm going to ask you a question about either the route, the coverage, whatever it might be, give you a chance to pause the video, think about your answer, and then we'll break it down, okay? So now, first video here. How would you guys run a slant route versus this coverage? So a 3-step slant versus this coverage. So you guys can go ahead and pause the video, think about how you would run it. Pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So, obviously, first things first, no matter what, anytime that I come up to the line, I have to have a pre-snap process. I have to understand why a DB is lined up a certain way, where he is lined up, and what type of coverage it is. So, obviously, this is like a form of press coverage, outside leverage, and we have some space between the two of us. So, if you guys said that on a slant route, when it's pressed like this, you want to do something called a diamond release, which is 3 hard steps to the outside and then slip under. That would be incorrect. Now, listen, I'm not saying it wouldn't work in this situation, but there's a way easier way to do this. If you guys said you want to attack his leverage, take the inside release, get up for 3 steps, and then run a slant, that would be correct. So he's outside shade for a reason, right? So I'm going to play this full speed. Let's watch what this wide receiver does. See how he attacks the DB's leverage, then bursts up for 3 steps on the slant. He doesn't just run the slant. If you guys said that, that would be incorrect. He doesn't do a slide release because that would screw up the timing of the play. He attacks the leverage, threatens him outside, then gets skinny and runs the slant route. So again, DB's lined up outside shade. That's something that we tell immediately in my pre-snap process. Now, why is he there? He's there to take away the outside, and he probably has help to the inside. So if you guys said that, oh, you just want to attack his inside shoulder and run the slant, that would be wrong because you'd be running right into his help. He either has linebacker help, safety help, whatever it might be. And that's exactly what he wants us to do. He's just going to get hands and force us to that help. So if you guys said I'd do a diamond release and attack his outside shoulder, a diamond release you want to do to try to get him to flip his hips. If he's outside leverage, he's probably not going to flip his hips open to the fade. He's probably going to stay patient, stay square, and when you try to cut back underneath, he's going to get hands on you right there as well. So that's why I wouldn't like the diamond release. So what this wide receiver does is he kind of does a little triple step release. He attacks his leverage to hold the DB to the outside. This creates a bigger window for that quarterback between the corner and his help that he has to the inside. So he attacks his leverage, and after you attack that leverage, it is a must that you get skinny. You get vertical. You go hip to hip with this DB to either get him to flip his hips and self-fade, but also so you don't run into the help and we give that quarterback a bigger window. So if you guys said attack his leverage, take the inside release for 3 steps, and then run the slant, that would be 100% correct. Diamond release I don't really like here, and we obviously can't just take off and go run that route. So I'm going to play this thing full speed, and then we will get into another example. Great example from this wide receiver running that slant versus outside shade press. So quarterback is to the inside here, fellas. This wide receiver just has a switched stance, but how would you guys run a slant route? Again, we're going to stay with the slant route for this one. How would you guys run a slant route versus this type of coverage? And mind you, there is about maybe a 2-yard gap between the two of them. So how would you guys run a 3-step slant versus this coverage? You guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about what you'd want to do. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So if it is a 3-step slant, obviously since he's inside shade, would the same release as the last time work? No, you would not just kind of give him a little shake to the outside and try to cut up inside for 3 steps and break. You would have to do something building off of a diamond release. So this is when you would want to use the diamond release, where you attack the outside shoulder of the DB. Goal is to get him to flip his hips, and we slip back underneath and win on that slant. Now, I'm going to play this full speed because it's not just the diamond release that you would do in this case. Let's play it full speed, and then we'll talk about what he did. So you see how he closes the space with him and then works to the diamond release. That is what you want to do when we have a 2-yard gap of space between the DB. Sometimes what a lot of wide receivers will do in this case is they will just take a very wide angle and take 3 steps into a dime release. They'll just go 1, 2, 3. But when there's a gap between us and the DB, even if, let's say I made the break here, but the DB's got a yard of space and I try to slip underneath, he's just going to open up his hips and drive. We have to close the cushion. We have to make him uncomfortable, try to step on his toes, and again, just put him on the defensive. So that's what this wide receiver does at the initial part of this release. So if you guys said you want to close the distance first, then do your diamond release 1, 2, 3 at his outside shoulder and his outside hip, that would have been correct. This is how you run that slant versus press. You don't want to just take off and run because there's too big a space. You don't want to just try to square him up and cut in front of him because his leverage is inside. He's trying to protect the leverage. We have to close the space, make him uncomfortable, then let's threaten him with the fade. And not only that, this looks like how you would run a fade versus this type of coverage. If you were running a fade, and let's say you had this coverage inside shade about 2 yards off, you wouldn't just take off and go run to the back pylon, right? You would try to set him up inside, then go take off to the back pylon. So that's what he does. He sets it up inside, makes it look like he's doing that fade to the back pylon, gets him anxious, and we could slip back underneath, easy money. So if that's what you guys said, close space and then diamond release, you would be 100% correct in this situation. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job at this wide receiver closing the space and then selling that 9 on that diamond release. Okay, so this is going to be a 2-part question. We're going to start with part 1, obviously. So how would you guys run a 10-yard out versus this type of coverage? So 10-yard out, quarterback is to the left. Obviously, I just want to make that clear because I know some of you ask about that at times. So 10-yard out versus this type of coverage. So you guys can go ahead and pause the video, think about what you would do. Pause the video. Okay, let's break this thing down. So what type of coverage is this, number 1? Obviously, what leverage is he? He's outside leverage, right? It's obviously man coverage because his eyes are on me. He's in a squared up stance, and he's maybe, I would say, how far off? 1, 2, 3, 3.5 yards off, right? So obviously he's playing some kind of form of like catch technique, I'd say, outside leverage, anticipating us to run an outside route, which is what we have called a 10-yard out. So how would you guys run this route? If you guys said you would want to square him up, give him a fake inside, take the outside release and try to get skinny and break, that'd be wrong. Because remember, why is this DB outside shade? He's trying to protect the outside. He does not want us to run the route that we have called. So if we try to force the outside release, he's just going to stay patient. He's just going to stay square, and he's going to force us all the way to that sideline, not giving the quarterback any space to make this throw. So what we would want to do is we would want to attack his leverage, get him to hold his leverage, and then take the inside release, okay? So now I'm going to play this full speed. This wide receiver does this wrong. So he comes off. He forces the outside release, right? And you see what I'm saying? There is no space for that quarterback to throw us open. He's got to throw either a perfect ball insanely early, and even though we got a DB right on the hip, that is an insanely tough throw for the quarterback, and you see what ends up happening. It's a pick because that's the only option, and that's not on the quarterback. A lot of people will be like, well, the quarterback threw that late. No, when you just force the outside release and you round out the cut, that screws up his timing. He's expecting us, the way this route is drawn on paper, I'm going to talk about that first. On paper, this route is drawn up, you go up to 10 and you break out. Not you take an angle to 10 and then break out. Because the quarterback is taking probably a shuffle hitch drop or a 3-step and throw. That means it's quick, that means it's a timing route, and he is trying to anticipate our break. But if we change up my stem entirely to try to get around this guy, that's when it's a problem. So we would be better off attacking him and taking the inside release. Now, second part of this question. The reason why we want to take the inside release, obviously, is to give the quarterback space. Now, what would you do? What are 2 moves that you can do if you take the inside release on a 10-yard out versus outside shade, like kind of catch technique? So what moves could you use at the top of the break? Number 1, what would you use if you stacked him? Number 2, what would you use if he was right on your hip? So you guys go ahead and pause the video. Think about your answer. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So, number 1, when we have this outside shade coverage and we take that inside release, everybody's biggest fear is, well, what if the DB, what if I can't stack him? It's great if I could stack him. What if I can't stack him? You could work a throw-by move. This DB is going to be right on your hip. You take your right hand, you put it on the back of his hip, his shoulder, and you slip under. So what? It might be tight coverage. At least you got space now for the quarterback to lead us, and he can be on time. And then obviously if you stack him, you give him a rocker step, you give him a move, you could peek back to the quarterback. That's pretty much a given. That's an easy one. But when he's on that hip, let's throw by. We got to have a plan, fellas. And the reason why I go over these quiz videos is not so you guys come up to the line and think about all this stuff when it's game time. I give you these quiz style videos so when you're watching film of a DB, you're preparing for something. It's an instinct. You got to see it over and over and over again. And if you don't see it over and over again, you're not going to get it down. It's just like stuff in school. Like everybody knows how to tie their shoes, I hope at least, right? So how'd you learn how to tie your shoes? You did it every day. So same thing with film, same thing with watching, understanding defenses, understanding routes. And a lot of you guys do watch these videos every day, and I appreciate the hell out of it. But that's the only way you're going to get better is you have to see it over and over and over again. Everybody knows this who watches me. Like, there's only so much you can talk about, right? But I repeat myself over and over again because I want you guys to get it. And if you don't hear that repetition going on in your head, if I just talk about something different every day, ain't nobody going to get any better. So let's play this full speed again. I hope everybody doesn't make this mistake when they have that out route. It's comfortable to take the outside release. It's uncomfortable for the inside release, but we got to be able to run it either way. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you're local to the San Diego area or the Bakersfield area, we are coming out for a one-day clinic in both of those cities. So check out that very first link in the description below if you're interested. I'd love to see you out there. I'll see you guys next time.